Hi again, everyone. We are now moving on to mitosis and meiosis. So mitosis and meiosis is your new title. We're going to be looking at these two types of cell division today. You need to be able to explain what happens to the chromosomes in our cells during mitosis and meiosis, and what the purpose of mitosis and meiosis is. So date, title, keywords, and do now task. The video can be paused here. And I'm about to go through the answers to those. Sorry if you can hear noise upstairs while I'm recording this at home. So osmosis, the movement of water from a high concentration of water to a low concentration of water across a semi-permeable membrane. An organ is a group of tissues working together to do a particular job. The job of the nucleus in a cell is to hold the genetic material, which contains the instructions for the function of the cell. And you may or may not know this one already. Chromosomes, in most human cells, we have 46 chromosomes. That's 23 pairs. Okay, so let's talk about chromosomes. So let me just move myself out of the way here. Okay, so chromosomes, they are long strands of genetic material found in our cells, in the nucleus. You might have heard of DNA. Well, DNA is basically a chemical that chromosomes are made from. Come on, slide. So here's a picture of a cell. If you could see inside the nucleus with a really powerful microscope, then you would see all these little strands, and they're called chromosomes, and they're made of DNA. And that's sort of what one looks like when you magnify it even more. So the vast majority of cells in the body, in fact, all of our body cells, except for sperms and eggs, have got chromosomes in pairs, and they're called homologous chromosomes. Okay, each pair is a homologous pair. So the chromosomes are very similar the chromosomes in each pair are very similar to each other. So one pair comes from mum, and one of the pair comes from dad. And so you get 23 from mum, 23 from dad, and they pair up in these homologous pairs. So you've got 23 homologous pairs in all of your cells, except for sperms and eggs. Homologous chromosomes. So one from mum, one from dad, and they pair up so that you've got pairs of chromosomes that are responsible for the same things. So scientists have actually looked at the chromosomes in human cells, and the pairs look something like this. So you'll notice that the pairs are numbered from 1 to 22. And then right at the bottom of the screen here, our 23rd pair is known as the sex chromosomes, because it is these chromosomes that determine whether you are biologically male or female at birth. And they are known as the X and Y chromosomes because one looks more like an X and one looks more like a Y. Okay, so your 23 pairs of chromosomes are 22 pairs plus the sex pair, as it's known. So DNA, as I said before, is just a chemical that chromosomes are made of. And actually chromosomes are very, very, very long, tightly wound strands, okay, of DNA. So this is a really, really long, tightly wound molecule. This kind of twisty ladder structure is known as the double helix structure. And it's these molecules, these DNA molecules, that actually contain all the instructions for making you who you are, which is incredible. So have a look at the review questions. Pause the video now. I apologise again for the noise. have a go at answering those, and I'll go through the answers. Okay, so hopefully you've unpaused the video now. Let's go through the answers. Chromosomes are found in the nucleus. That's the answer to number 1. What are chromosomes? Well, they are strands of DNA that contain instructions for making different parts of the cell. How many do we have? Well, in all our cells except sperm and eggs, we have 23 pairs, so that's 46 chromosomes in each cell. And DNA contains the codes, the instructions for making the bits of the cell. So you may have already said that in question 2. So just double check your answers, correct anything you got wrong. It's all right. Okay, so I said at the start, mitosis and meiosis are types of cell division. So why is it cells need to divide? You could pause and have a think about that if you want to. Well, there's some clues in the pictures. Repair, so if we injure ourselves, then we have to make new cells to repair the damaged area. And also to make sperms and eggs for reproduction. Okay, and also just general growth. As you grow because you're making more cells. The cells aren't getting bigger, you're actually increasing the number of cells that you are made of. Okay, so I'm going to show you a short video. These are the questions I want you to answer while we're doing that. So these aren't going to be on the screen, so you need to remember them. What happens before the cell divides? So something happens to the DNA. So jot down what happens to the DNA. What happens to the chromosomes when they duplicate? How many cells are produced by each parent cell during mitosis? And what is special about the 2 cells that are produced? You might want to pause the video and make a note of those, but I'm going to move on and show you the mitosis clip. Again, if this doesn't play very well, then it can be found on YouTube.
This is a fertilized human egg cell. It quickly divides into 2 cells, which continue to divide, eventually forming a baby made up of millions of cells. In order to grow, an organism's cells must multiply. These are skin cells. It's the same for plants. For this root to grow, its cells must be multiplying over and over again. They're reproducing themselves by a process known as mitosis. Mitosis produces new cells, which are identical to each other. To understand what's happening when a cell divides in this way, we need to take a look inside the nucleus. The nucleus of every living cell contains chromosomes. These thread-like structures are made of DNA and contain all the information necessary for the cell to survive. This is what they look like in real life. When a cell's about to divide, the chromosomes become shorter and fatter. They line up along the center before separating to opposite ends of the cell. A human cell normally has 46 chromosomes, but to make it easier to follow the process, imagine a cell with just 3. Before a cell divides, each chromosome has to make an identical copy of itself. The twin-armed chromosomes then line up along the center. Invisible cell fibers pull them apart. Membranes form around the 2 sets of chromosomes, forming the nuclei and cell membrane of the 2 new cells. Mitosis is a very organized process, making sure that the new cells are identical to each other and identical to the original. This whole process has been speeded up many times. It usually happens over a few hours. This type of cell division is how all animals and plants grow. These are the cells in an onion root tip. They've been stained with a dye which helps show up the chromosomes. You can see how they're all at slightly different stages of mitosis.
Okay, I love seeing the microscope images of mitosis happening. I think it's just fascinating. Right, so our questions. So what happens to before the cell divides? I've got the answers on the next slide. Okay, so all the chromosomes make a copy of themselves. What happens to the chromosomes? Well, the chromosomes line up in the center of the cell, and then pulled. One copy of each chromosome is pulled to opposite ends of the cell. We then get new membranes, new nuclear membranes forming around those copies. So we get two new nuclei, or nucleuses. Nuclei is the correct way to say it. And that gives rise to two cells. And the special thing about them is that they are absolutely identical to each other in terms of their DNA. So as you are growing, or as you are healing, if you've hurt yourself, your body is basically manufacturing lots of genetically identical cells through this process of mitosis. Okay, and you probably heard the lady say on the video, those moving images, those video of mitosis happening you were seeing was sped up. So it normally takes a few hours for that whole process to happen in one cell. Okay, so it's much easier to see what's happening in mitosis if we don't try and think about a cell with 46 chromosomes in it. So we've got some diagrams here of a cell with 2 chromosomes in it. So you can see that at the start we've got a cell with 2 chromosomes here. The chromosomes each copy themselves. So we've got a chromosome here, a chromosome here, then we've got a chromosome here and a chromosome here. So they've copied themselves. They will actually line up along the middle of the cell, and then one of each copy is pulled in opposite directions. New nuclear membranes form, and we end up with 2 new nuclei. Okay, so daughter cells, as they're known, that are identical to the parent cell. So the job of mitosis, remember mitosis makes 2 cells. So think of the T in mitosis as opposed to meiosis. Mitosis results in 2 daughter cells. They're identical, and it's used for growth and repair of damaged tissues. Okay, so you've got a task to do now, just in your books. I want you to sketch out these diagrams showing the different processes of mitosis. I have left the information up on the slide for you as I'm not there, but see if you can put that into your own words if you can, and just use the slides to help you if you get stuck. So the video needs to be paused now. Okay, so hopefully you finished that task now. The challenge question was, what could happen if mitosis goes wrong? Well, a number of things can happen. It could mean wounds don't heal. It could mean you don't grow properly. And sometimes actually mitosis happens too quickly. And in that case, if we get uncontrolled mitosis, that results in cancerous tumours. So mitosis is really, really important. Moving on to meiosis now. Okay, so meiosis is another form of cell division. That's a really key thing to remember. Mitosis and meiosis are both types of cell division. In other words, cells dividing to make more cells. This is what happens when sex cells or gametes are produced. So in animals, that's going to be sperm and eggs. And in plants, it's going to be pollen and ova. That should be sexual reproduction, not asexual. Sorry, that's a typo. It's used to halve the number of chromosomes. So remember, when a sperm and an egg come together, their total number of chromosomes has got to add up to 46 in a human. So when meiosis produces sperms and eggs, it has to produce cells with only 23 chromosomes, not 46. Okay, so mitosis produces identical cells. Meiosis produces cells that have got half as many chromosomes as the parent cell. That's the next point. Okay. So human body cells contain 23 pairs or 46 chromosomes. Sperm and eggs, the gametes, only contain 23 each. So these are the main features. Chromosomes are copied, just like in mitosis, but the cell divides twice rather than just once, and that gives rise to 4 daughter cells or gametes. So in humans, in testes, meiosis results in sperm production. In ovaries, meiosis results in the production of eggs or ova. Okay. So quick questions to check you can answer. How many gametes are produced from one cell during meiosis, and how many chromosomes does a gamete have? So you could pause the slide now and take some notes down on meiosis, or if you answer the quick questions but in full sentences, that would double up as your notes. So hopefully you paused the video and you've done that piece of work now. So the quick question answers: how many gametes are produced from one cell? 4 is the correct answer. How many chromosomes does a gamete have? Half as many as the parent cell. So in human beings, it would be 23. Another video to show you. Okay, so we're going to have a look at a video now. I just want to talk you through this diagram first. So we've got a parent cell here. That's not what I wanted to do, was it? So we've got a parent cell at the bottom, which has got 2 pairs of chromosomes in it. So our cells would have 23 pairs. For simplicity, this cell has got 2 pairs. So each of the 4 chromosomes there copy each other, just like getting mitosis. But this time, the cell divides once, and then each of the 2 daughter cells here divide again to give rise to 4 daughter cells. And you can see that each daughter cell has got half as many chromosomes as the parent cell. So let's watch that video now.
In a flower like this, the male reproductive organ is called the anther. It produces pollen grains, the equivalent to an animal's sperm. The female reproductive organ is called the carpel. Inside the swollen ovary at the base are egg cells. Pollen, egg cells and sperm are all produced by meiosis. Imagine a cell with just 4 chromosomes. As with mitosis, each produces an identical copy of itself. Chromosomes belong in pairs. One half of the pair, shown in blue, will originally have come from the father. The other one is from the mother. In meiosis, the chromosomes pair up with their partner along the center of the cell. These pairs split apart, some of the mother chromosomes going with some of the father chromosomes. But it doesn't end here. These cells now split mitosis style. The twin-armed chromosomes line up along the center of the cell before being pulled apart. From just one cell, 4 new cells are created. Meiosis produces cells which have half the usual number of chromosomes. It takes place during the formation of sex cells, like eggs and sperm. Why is it important that the number of chromosomes in egg and sperm cells is halved?
Okay. So why is it important that the number of chromosomes in the cells produced by meiosis are halved? Well, because 2 gametes have got to come together to make a cell that's got the right number of chromosomes. So if you had a sperm and an egg with 46 chromosomes each, we'd end up with 92 in a cell, and we need 46. So a sperm and egg, or a pollen and an ova in a flowering plant, have to have half the number of chromosomes as the body cells of that organism. So I said to remember T for 2 for remembering mitosis. You might be able to remember that meiosis contains an E and an S for egg and sperm. That might help you remember the purpose of meiosis. And really important to remember that it produces 4 sex cells, each with half the number of chromosomes. You don't need to remember the steps in detail, but you need to remember those key points. Okay, you've now got a task to do. You're going to stick the printed diagram of meiosis and mitosis into your book, and then you're going to complete this meiosis task to show that you know what meiosis means and the different steps. You can use your printed diagram to help you, but then I need you to do descriptions for each stage, please. So pause the video while you're doing that. Moving on to the next task now. So the next task is, sorry, that hasn't come up properly. Oh, I've lost my table. This was a table, sorry folks. So you could make a table to show the differences and similarities between meiosis and mitosis. So a table, or you could write down key points for each. So for each of meiosis and mitosis, what's it used for? What type of reproduction is it used in? So sexual reproduction or asexual reproduction. Now, asexual reproduction is when cells just make copies of themselves. So think about which type of cell division that would involve. How many chromosomes after cell division? In other words, is it the same number as the parent cell or half as many as the parent cell? Number of daughter cells, number of cell divisions, and why do you think it might cause variation? Sorry, does it or doesn't it cause variation in offspring? So do you think offspring will be identical to each other, daughter cells, or will they be different to each other? So pause the video now. I'm going to put the answers up. Those are the sorts of things you should have come up with. So again, you can pause the video here to check your answers. And last task, if you have time, think about why the process of meiosis might cause variation, but mitosis doesn't. And you'll have to look very, very carefully at the colours on these pictures to work out why. Actually, there is something in the description that might help you. Okay, so if you've thought about this task, then the reason we get variation in meiosis is because of this very important section here. In this section, or in this stage rather, we actually get, you can see from the colours in this diagram, we actually get some swapping over of genetic material. So this chromosome and this chromosome have actually swapped some DNA. And that means that right at the end of the process, we end up with 4 daughter cells that are completely different to each other, which means no 2 sperm are the same, no 2 eggs are the same, no 2 grains of pollen are the same, no 2 plant ovaries are the same. And so when sperm and eggs or pollen and eggs get together, they will produce completely unique offspring. Okay, that's the end of our lesson on mitosis and meiosis. I will go over some of these bits and pieces again with you, so don't panic if you find it confusing. Okay, thank you.